Hello everyone. The 40th session in Computer Application in Business of fifth semester BBA affiliated to Bangalore North University. This 40th session of the subject Computer Application in Business deals with database language. Let us recap what was discussed in the previous class. We understood what is database, different types of database, in that centralized database system, distributed database system, and what are the objectives of database. In this session, the purpose is to enable the students to understand the different database languages. After the completion of the session, the students will be able to explain the database languages. The session contains data definition language. There are certain important terminologies. We discuss data manipulation language, data control language, and transaction control language. Before we move on to important terminologies, let us understand what is a database language and why it is required. Database languages are the set of statements that are used to define and manipulate a database. By this time, we are all aware that database is nothing but a collection of information. It is organized so that it can be easily accessed, managed, and updated. So, there is a need for creating the database, managing the database, and updating the database, which is done with the help of database languages. Basically, it provides the tools to implement and manipulate a database. The question arises, why do we need these languages? Because there are database queries and updates by the users, and these languages will help to create and maintain database on the computer. Say example, DBase, MS Access, FoxPro, Oracle, MySQL, Sybase, Paradox are some of the examples of database languages. Before we move on to the different types of languages, there are two important terms often used while writing this database languages. One is instances, another one is schema. Instances are nothing but collection of information stored in a database at a particular moment, whereas the overall design of the database is called as schemas. So when we talk about different types of languages, initially we understood there are four types of languages. Data definition language to define the data, data manipulation language to make changes, addition, deletions. We have data control language and transaction control language. Now let us understand these languages one by one. Now let's move on to data definition language. As the name itself says that it is basically to define the data. It is also known as data description language. This language allows the user to define the data and their relationship with the other data types. And the purpose of using this language is to create files, databases, data dictionary, and tables within the database. There are certain commands and the operations which are used in the process of defining this language, defining the data in the language. So let us look into some of those operations or the commands which are used for data definition. So one, we have create. So in order to create objects, the command which is used is create. In order to alter the structure, we have alter, that's alter. In order to delete the object, we have drop operation. And to remove all records, it's not deleting one single object. To remove all records, we have truncate operation which is being used. And anything which has to be added as a comment in the data dictionary, we have comment command. And to rename the objects, we have the operational command which is rename. In a simple terminology, in order to define a data in the database by a user and establish relationship amongst the other data types, we use data definition language. Now let's move on to data manipulation language. As the name itself says that it is related to manipulation. So it is the language that provides a set of operations to support the basic data manipulation on the data held in the database. It allows the user to insert, update, delete and retrieve the data from the database. Say for example, when we are talking about an employee database, many employees will be taken into the organization. Many will be leaving the organization. So in such cases, the question of insert, update, delete, and to get the information of an employee, we need to retrieve the data about the employee. So in such cases, say we are using data manipulation language. It is that part of data manipulation language that involves data retrieval is called as a query language. The manipulation involves inserting, updating, deleting and retrieving. So retrieval part of the data from the database is known as a query language. Now let us understand some of the operational commands. To retrieve the data, we use select. To update existing data, we use update. To delete all records, we use delete. To insert or update, we use an operational command of merge or upsert. So to call a programming language, a structured query language, we use call. To explain access path to data, so we use explain plan. And to have concurrency control, we use lock table. So basically data manipulation language allows user to insert, update, delete and retrieve data from database. Let's move on to the next type of language, which is called as data control language, abbreviated to DCL. It controls the access to the data using the statement such as grant and revoke. It is basically a subset of a structured query language. See, whenever a user wants to access the data, the access can be granted or can be taken away from the user. So we use grant command or an operational word or a statement to give privilege to user. Likewise, revoke to take away privileges from the user. To add a comment to the dictionary, we use comment operational command. So in order to control the access to the data by the users, data control language is used. Let's move on to the next type of language, which is called as transaction control language, which allows statements to be grouped together in a logical transaction. It is used to manage the changes which is made by data manipulation language. Some of the operational terminologies or the commands are: in order to save the work done. Say suppose in data manipulation, we would have inserted some data, we would have updated some data, deleted some data, and after doing manipulation, there is a need for saving the work or the manipulation which is done. So that is done by transaction control language. That is why we say that it is basically used to manage the changes made by data manipulation language. So this transaction control language, as we said, to save the work done, that is the changes which is being made, we use the command commit. To identify the point where the changes have been made, save point. To restore the database, we have rollback. And to change the transaction, we use set transaction. So these are some of the languages which is being used for defining and manipulating a database. Just to recap, database languages are the set of statements that are used to define and manipulate a database. These languages provide the tools to implement and manipulate a database. We discussed 4 types of database languages. One is data definition language to define the data, data manipulation language to do manipulation like insert, update, delete. We have data control language which controls the access by the user by either granting or by revoking. And we have transaction control language which basically manages the changes which is made by data manipulation language. Now let's move on to some of the multiple choice questions based on the topic which is covered under this session. Question goes like this: which one of the following is not a database language? So please remember, we have discussed 4 types of language. So let's see which are the one which is not a database language, that what we have discussed. Data definition language, DDL, data manipulation language, DML, data programming language, and data control language. As we are all aware that the 4 languages are data definition, data manipulation, data control, and transaction control. So which is the one which is not a database language? Yes, you are right. It is data programming language. The next question is, the overall design of the database is known as. Let's see the options: instances, schema, style, and none of the above. So we have not come across anything like style in the session. We came across 2 things. One is instances, another one is schema. So we understood what is an instance. Instance is nothing but the collection of information stored in a database at a particular moment. So it should be a schema. Schema is nothing but the overall design of the database. So answer is schema. Now we'll move on to the next question. To allow control concurrency in DML, what command is used? So DML is data manipulation language. Now we have a different option. One is control, another is call, another is log table, another is merge. So let's evaluate. We have call command for a different purpose, and control is for a different purpose. Merge, we don't come across such kind of terminology. Merge is basically to insert or update. And the log table is the command which is used for control concurrency. So answer is log table. Let's move on to the next question. A subset of SQL is it a data definition language or data control language? Sorry, transaction control language, data manipulation language? Answer is data control language. The last question. To allow users to save the work done in transaction control language, options are save, rollback, save point, and commit. So we know commit is a command which is used to save the work done in DCL. Thank you. These are some of the books for references or the books which are referred for this session. Thank you.